I think another point for me in terms of the way that the technologies can really help us harness the data in a digital audit is by making sure that when we have to have iterations on our thought process, that can happen really seamlessly. So we can have in one place the decisions that we've already made that might influence what we're about to make, the areas we might need to go back to and rethink our thought process. And rather than that becoming a huge administrative burden for us to make sure that the file remains consistent, that our thought process is captured in a logical way to be able to play that back to somebody coming in when the engagement's complete, I feel like technology has a big role to play in terms of making that more iterative, less linear approach actually be very coherent in terms of the way that teams actually document their work.
That's an interesting observation. I concur with that. I think there's been a resistance to not necessarily the iterative process, but to be able to say, I've signed off on my planning, so that my planning is done. Now let's do the audit. Well, what you thought during the planning may be changing based upon what you find in the data. So maybe you've got to go revisit some of your planning decisions. So maybe it's not you're going to lock down your planning. Maybe what you need to do is have some acknowledgement that if did something later on in the audit impact a decision earlier on, did you get some sort of a view to it and you go, okay, that makes sense, or it doesn't make sense, that would have impacted that. Again, it's putting those pieces together or connecting the dots is a expression that I like to use. And you can go around and around, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you think about when you're driving, you go from point A to point B, but you don't necessarily always go the same route. Sometimes there's traffic and you go a different way. It's okay. As long as you got to the right, if you got to the end, you might be okay. So you're getting to a good audit at the end. How you got there isn't quite as important as doing the straightest line or the quickest line.